Hi, my name's John Maxwell. I'm so happy to be here today with you and to be a part of this exciting series, Foundations for Success. My friends at Success invited me to introduce this module on leadership because I was recently named the most influential leadership authority in the world, and because I've been told that I've written more books on leadership than any author in the world, which means I'm old. And even with my busy schedule, I was happy to say yes to helping with this incredible series because I have so much respect for Jim Rohn. He was a gifted teacher and a beautiful human being. So I felt compelled to help honor his legacy and share some of the life lessons that I have learned from him. And that's why I'm spending time here today with you. Whenever I'm asked what my favorite Jim Rohn lesson is, I really have to think about it because Jim's teaching was so solid, it was so practical. But I think one of the greatest things Jim taught was that we should never stop learning. In the previous module, Brian Tracy described Jim as an eternal student, and that is absolutely true. Jim practiced what he preached. He had a never-ending desire to learn, and no matter how successful he became, no matter what he achieved, no matter how many skills he acquired, or how much knowledge he absorbed, Jim still wanted to keep on learning. That's modeling that we should all try to follow. I hope you keep that in your mind as you learn from this module on leadership. Why is leadership so important to me? Why do I think it's also important to you? It's because everything rises and falls on leadership. You probably know this instinctively. You've probably worked for both good leaders and bad leaders. When the leader is good, everything gets better. When the leader is bad, everything gets worse. Organizations rise and fall on their leadership, and so do teams and families, even entire nations. And here's why. Let's say that your leadership is a 5 on the scale of 10. If you're a 5, your success will never be any higher than a 4. Your leadership is what it is. It's the lid of your success. I call this the law of lid in my 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. You see, if your leadership is a 5, then your department, your organization, your team, whatever you lead, will only be a 4. But here's the good news. Leadership can be learned. And if your natural leadership ability is a 5, it doesn't have to stay there. If you're willing to work at it, you can raise your leadership level to a 6 or a 7, or maybe even an 8. If your natural leadership is a 7, you can increase it to an 8 or 9. And what happens to your organization or team? It can rise up with it. It's like this. If my leadership is a 5, then my business, my organization is going to be a 4. But as I go from a 5 to a 6 to a 7 to 8, as I lift that lid, now there's room for my organization, my business, to just literally grow and follow that. You see, if you're not a leader now, you could become one. And if you're already a leader, you could become a better one. If you're already leading people, how do you know how you're doing? Look at your people. If they're motivated, energetic, and productive, if they're working together toward a common vision, then you're probably doing pretty well. And if they're not, then you have an opportunity to grow. In this module, Jim talks about how leaders must be strong without being rude, kind without being weak, proud without being arrogant, and humble without being timid. Most people don't inherently know how to do this, so they have to learn how. And I believe you will learn wonderful insights in this lesson. You can become more effective in your leadership. Remember what Jim taught. Human beings can change because we have the ability to make choices. Every other form of life is driven by instinct. But as human beings, we have the capacity to make choices that can change our lives for the better. And as you'll soon learn in this module, Jim teaches that wishing and hoping for change isn't enough. As he says, if you want things to change for you, then you must consider that perhaps you should change. So embrace this opportunity to learn and be willing to do the work necessary to become a better leader, even if it requires you to make some uncomfortable adjustments and accept some new ways of doing things. Let me give you a quick example. Several years ago, I spoke to a large audience of corporate CEOs, presidents, and other top leaders during a leadership training seminar. At one point, I told the leaders that they should share their weaknesses with their people. Whoa! Whew! The crowd wasn't ready to hear that, and I could tell most of them were resistant to the whole idea. After the session was over, an executive approached me and said, I appreciated most of what you said up there, but I have to tell you, I really disagree with the part about leaders having to share their weaknesses with their people. He went on to tell me about how leadership was about appearing strong, showing confidence, and never letting people see you sweat. And I just let him talk. And then I said, I think you're making a wrong assumption. You're assuming that your people don't already know your weaknesses, but they do. You're not telling them because they don't know. You're telling them so that they know that you know. And when you finally admit your weaknesses, they're going to say, great, he knows, thank goodness. Now, maybe we can get somewhere. You see, one of the most important things any leader can do is to accept reality. You can't lead others effectively if you don't. You can't even lead yourself. So you need to start there. Jim put it this way: figure out how it really is and not wish that it was different. Once you do, you can start building. You can start learning. You can start improving. You can start becoming the leader you've always wanted to be. In this module, Jim is going to share with you some of the basic truths of leadership that are really going to help you. Listen in. Take some notes. Be alert for lessons that will help you improve, and don't be quick to dismiss them. Be quick to adopt them. Start making the changes that make you a better leader. I want to thank you for making the choice to focus on developing yourself. I know you're going to learn a great deal from Jim in this module, whether you're already in a position of leadership or have a goal to one day be a leader of a great influence. And now, here's Jim.